Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Raiten, and let me tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm interested in this curricular position for Forney ISD. I am a teacher of 23 years. I have taught everything from 3rd grade self-contained, 5th grade both reading and social studies and science. I taught 6th grade science, I taught 7th grade science, and basically from high school on, I've always wanted to be a teacher, and I pursued that passion for 23 years. This last school year, a situation occurred where my mother needed me, and it ended up, unfortunately, that my husband did as well. In the meantime, I was not teaching, and I started a part-time business where online I sell products using a website called Etsy, and I design and create t-shirts actually, and I love creating teacher t-shirts actually as well. My oldest is a first-year teacher in Plano, and she's following in her mommy's footsteps. Okay. Describe a classroom lesson that met the needs of all students. I'm going to use science as my example just because it's the most recent subject that I've taught. I really believed in science as inquiry, and I believe in hands-on. That would go with math as well. And reading would be a little bit different, obviously. But my science lesson that I taught that really worked well, and it worked well for long term, used the method of inquiry and hands-on materials. Basically, I presented the students with a situation, a real-life situation, almost like the problem-based learning, or PBL. And the problem was that they needed to get something heavy, and for my example I used an Xbox. They had to get an Xbox up to their treehouse, and I kind of showed examples of what a treehouse ladder might look like in case we had some students with no prior knowledge in that regard. And I handed them some materials, and I said, this represents your Xbox, and you need to take these materials and you need to show me how you can use these tools to get your Xbox up into your treehouse. At any rate, that science lesson was using a pulley and pulley systems, and many of those students had never seen a pulley before. They didn't know what a pulley was. They didn't even know it was called a pulley. Watching them sort of explore using a rope and how it might fit around a pulley, using that load and how it might connect to the pulley or how it might connect to the rope, and how it can get, how they could get the object to move. That in itself encouraged the long-term learning because they were discovering the concepts on their own. Again, the method of science inquiry allows for that long-term sort of, they're developing their understanding. I also have done PBL units where we've done the same thing, trying to make a real-life problem that the students are working to solve versus just something hypothetical where you're just processing information and going to have short-term recall. Forney ISD works together with the instructional specialists and the curricular writers. What's my vision for that? I really do think that they need to work together hand in hand. In order for the curriculum to be effective, the facilitators need to be telling the curricular writers what's going on in the classroom. And I'm not talking really necessarily about the teaks that are out there. Those we can find online, and when those are changing, we're watching and we're making changes right along with them. But I'm talking about what's working in the classroom, what's not working in the classroom, what kind of needs do we see in the classroom, and bring that information back to the curricular writers who can then formulate a lesson or a unit that meets the needs of the students. What do I do to ensure good time management? I'll be honest with you, I use something which my daughters affectionately now call a bullet journal. I actually do handwrite things down in a handwritten journal. Now granted, keep in mind, I use my iPad all the time. I use Microsoft Office. More than likely, I'm using Google Drive and Google Calendar. Love using Google Calendars when the calendars are meshed together. I'll give you an example. When I was science department chair, I knew what was going on in 7th grade and in 6th grade and in 8th grade because we shared calendars. I also use that handwritten bullet journal mostly because I can physically have that with me all the time, and I can more quickly write down some thoughts, ideas, some brainstorming, and I can make to-do lists that I physically can go through to make sure that I'm managing my time. When designing a new lesson or a unit, what steps do I take to make sure that all objectives are met? The first thing I'm going to do is look online and make sure that I understand which TEKs are expected in that unit, are expected to be met in that unit. So using those as a guide, what I would do is backward lesson planning. I would make sure that I understood what my assessment was going to be, so that I could then work my way towards that assessment. And I would also make sure that I actually, at the end of that, create a pre-assessment as well. In science, we like to use what we call science probes in the beginning to make sure that we're assessing understandings, strong understandings, or possibly misconceptions that students have in the beginning before the lessons are even taught, before the unit's even taught. So I would use what I call backward lesson planning. This is my video. My name is Cindy Raiten. Looking forward to meeting and discussing a little bit more with Forney ISD the possibility of being a curricular writer on a part-time basis. Thank you.